While at Monarch Pass at the end of the last video, Julie noticed the Colorado Trail separated from the CDT and seemed to travel at lower elevations. It rejoined the trail at Twin Lakes, where I was going to resupply next. So it was decided, after we spent the night in Salida, I'd hike north on the CT. At 9 a.m. the next day, we were at the CT trailhead. Of course, Julie had to hike with me for a while before we got a selfie and she headed back to the car. On her way home, she had some solo adventures. On the Colorado Trail, I didn't know what to do with all those extra oxygen molecules. The trail was so well maintained. It was bucolic too. I realized it was just the first day, but I really was happy with my decision to take the CT. It didn't feel like cheating. It felt like I was getting over on someone who was trying to get over on me. This bird sounded like someone's ringtone. I met a CT hiker and almost tried to blend in.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
At the top of the last climb of the first day, I of course had my big climb playlist on. As I got to the top, I had to pee. So as I started to, Red Right Hand came on the playlist. So of course I peed like I imagined Thomas Shelby does. I found the Colorado Trail segment routes on the CalTopo website. I exported the segments as GPX files that would fit on my new watch. The end of the first day's hike corresponded to the end of the segment, so I could watch the distance count down. Speaking of the watch, it tells me how many calories I burn, which is worrisome. I eat a little over 2,000 calories a day. Dinner was eaten on a bridge adjacent to my tent site. In the morning, I was just a short road walk away from a resort where I could have a fancy breakfast. Here's a justification for road walks. I didn't see anything but birds and rodents on the trail the first day. This morning, I saw a rabbit and a deer right away. Talk about truth in advertising. Clearly, this neighborhood has a bear problem. These trash cans have locks on them. Speaking of the neighborhood, it is fancy. The resort where I ate breakfast at was called Mount Princeton Hot Springs. It has been around forever. I got there early so I could explore a little. I'm gonna have a water park. I got greedy, even though I had a restaurant breakfast. When I saw Rainbow Lake Resort on the Collegiate Peaks Bike Trail detour, I thought I could drop by the restaurant and have lunch too. Turns out the resort didn't have a restaurant. The day flew by until the climb through the Collegiates. Then everything slowed down. It took 2¼ hours, but seemed to be much longer. I wonder if it will seem as long later when I look back at it. Reminds me of the vacation paradox. While you travel to and from your vacation destination, it seems to take forever. While on the vacation itself, time seems to slip by so quickly. Although, when you look back at the vacation, you don't remember the travel so much, but you remember all the adventures you had between the travel. CT segments seem to suggest daily distances, not like the 100-mile or so for sections of the PCT and CDT. Sections seem to stop and start at water sources with camping options. Very civilized. It seems similar to the monasteries along the historic pilgrimage routes. Sad, I don't recognize the names on the CT trail registries. I wanted to catch this woodpecker in the act, but I guess he didn't find anything to peck at. Like the morning before, the new CT segment started with a road walk, but unlike the day before, there would be no breakfast at a resort. There was a beautiful set of lakes though. At a breathtaking viewpoint, I talked to Julie. During our conversation, I bemoaned the fact that I am not tougher yet. The climbs still give me so much trouble. I hit the CT mile marker 200. I was going in the wrong direction, so every time I met a new CT hiker, they were closer to the start than the last. Before the big climb, where I'd enter the Collegiates again, I stopped at a creek for a late lunch and watched the trout. I came down from the Collegiates so fast I had to clear my ears. I got tired of trying to slow myself down, so I trail ran a little. I wanted to get to the Twin Lakes by the end of the day, but it would be a 26-mile day and 6,000 feet of elevation gain. In the end, I was 2.5 miles short and had 5,712 feet of elevation gain. If I had been more observant, I could have road walked from the last valley near Clear Creek Reservoir and around the last climb and stayed at the town of Twin Lakes. That I ate dinner at the last water source before the lake and camped on a flat spot made by a switchback. It had a great view of the valley, though. In the morning, I discovered a rodent had chewed through my tent's netting, my snack bag, and a Ziploc bag. It ate a quarter cup of M&Ms and a quarter cup of cashews right next to my head, and I never heard a thing. I had just those 2.5 miles to the lake where the CT rejoined the CDT. The whole climb down was in a burn zone. Walking around the lake to get to the road was nice. Being able to use a porta potty was a bonus. Seeing all the van dweller rigs was cool too. But what I really was looking forward to was getting to breakfast in the town of Twin Lakes, which was just off the trail. I spent a good long time in town. Not only did I get a meal, but I also resupplied for the stretch to Silverthorn, and I prepared my snack bag. The proprietor of the inn told me about a trail up to the CDT from town. I didn't have to take the road back to the trail, which was good. Glenwood Springs was 79 miles away by car. That is where I'd catch a train to home in just a few days. The trail from town to CDT was steep but short. I was there by noon. I thought this little spillway was cool. Unfortunately, for the beaver that built this dam, there wasn't enough water to go around. Speaking of beavers, check out the size of this beaver lodge. Man, the beavers in this area are busy. Check out the size of this trunk that one of those industrious guys managed to gnaw through. Before the day's big climb, I cooled off. Just after I got out, the clouds blew in. I sure wasn't hot anymore. Boy, Mount Massive is an imposing name for a wilderness. As I approached this Widowmaker, I heard it, or the tree was holding it up, creaking in the wind. So I did a little trail maintenance. Too bad now it's blocking the trail. A talkative little fellow. I camped at this bridge over Rock Creek after a 23-mile day. It is in great shape for being over 60 years old. The Twin Lakes Market had my favorite breakfast. This was quite a blowdown. Here's another. I had ambitious plans for the day. I wanted to hike 27 miles to get to the bottom of the next day's big climb. They say you should get up by noon and down by 2 to avoid thunderstorms at high elevation. The only chance of that happening was if I start the 7-mile, 3,000-foot climb right away the next day. The day did not seem to want to stick to the plan, though. Everything was taking longer than it should. The climbs that I thought weren't that bad were giving me such trouble. Despite that, I saw some interesting things. I ran into a Boy Scout troop starting their weekend adventure in the Holy Cross Wilderness. Getting water doesn't always go the way you hope. This cross-country ski trail is marked high so the skiers can navigate in deep snow. This bridge is straining under its own weight. A restroom always improves the day, but it was 6 p.m. and I was 8 miles from my goal. I noticed Highway 24 paralleled the trail. It was going downhill and, of course, wouldn't have any blowdowns. This old service station is now a residence, and they sometimes have trail magic, so I guess everyone notices and uses this shortcut. The only magic they had at this late hour was water, and I didn't need any. The trail crossed the road at these abandoned railroad tracks. Once I was back on the trail, I noticed another shortcut that would take me to Camp Hale Campground, which was my planned destination. Camp Hale was the 10th Mountain Infantry Division's headquarters for a long time. This sign talks about the dangers of hazardous material left over when there was still a military base. Thanks to the shortcuts, I managed to cover 8 trail miles in 2.5 hours. I stealth camped in the campground behind one of the outhouses. Turns out the campground is only meant for group camping. It was too late to go anywhere else. Starting out in the morning, I passed this beaver dam that used man-made structures to make a really impressive dam. Man makes plans, beavers laugh. Up I went. I made it to the top by 11, step 1 complete. At the top, I saw marmots and a pika. As I crossed roughly 2 miles above 12,000 feet, I ran into Mike from Colorado Springs and his grandnephew, who were section hiking the Colorado Trail. As it turned out, we worked for Hewlett-Packard at the same time. He's retired now. Those 2 miles were tough because of all the snow. It's hard to believe this is what June looks like. I could see an old Tent Mountain cabin off in the distance. I tried to glissade to it, but the slope wasn't steep enough and the snow was way too soft. All I got was wet and I broke my trekking pole. The top of the pole, where the wrist wrap was connected, popped off and landed somewhere in the deep snow. The Tent Mountain built these cabins all around the area to train for alpine and cold weather combat. The U.S. military lacked these critical skills at the onset of World War II. The cabins are now available to rent as ski-in chalets. It even has a wood-burning sauna out back. The cabin was on the way down the mountain, and I arrived at 1, so step 2 complete. I managed to forget the broken hiking pole at the cabin because I couldn't connect it to my pack because the strap was gone. On the way down, I met a couple of mountain bikers who were heading to the cabin. They grabbed my pole for me. Score. I got to the bottom and entered the resort of Copper Mountain around 4. Instead of following the Silverthorn alternative as I planned, I road walked to Frisco so I could catch a bus to Glenwood Springs the next day. There's a great paved biking and hiking trail that connects Copper Mountain to Frisco and beyond. Man makes plans. Beavers laugh. I finished the 9.5-mile road walk to Frisco around 7. I ate dinner at a Cajun place with outdoor seating. I wanted to limit how much I exposed the civilized people of Frisco to my 6 days of stink. Then I was off to the Snowshoe Motel where I did my laundry in the hotel sink. Travel home went flawlessly. Took an early bus to Glenwood Springs. I had some spare time while I waited for the train. In the afternoon the next day, Julie picked me up at the train station. Because I got to Frisco a day early and travel home went so smoothly, I arrived 4 days before Riley's graduation from graduate school.
Riley Sweet. Allison Kelly Hearn. Rashida Glivini.
I had time to repair my pants, replace the tent's zipper poles, and even got a little ultralight. Trail stop checklist. Twin Lakes, check. Frisco, check.